Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Makwariola. Keeping the people abreast of relevant information, education and entertainment are not only the fundamentals of modern journalism, but are being the watchdog of society for accountability and justice for citizens towards a free society. Yet, news stories and reports of journalists being harassed, wounded and even murdered in cold blood continues to trend around the world, and in Africa, where repressive laws are often enacted to stifle freedom of speech. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on the level of impunity and crimes against journalists across Africa? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. We take a report now, and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
November the 2nd of every year is marked as the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists. It is an important day not only to commemorate and honor all those who have died in the line of duty, but also to call for justice in cases of violence and harassment against journalists and guarantee their safety. According to the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO, more than 800 journalists have been killed for reporting. In 9 out of 10 cases, the killers go unpunished. Since 2006, only 7% of these cases has justice been served. The 2017 Global Impunity Index by the Committee to Protect Journalists spotlights countries where journalists are slain and the killers go free.
All around the world, journalists and people who work in the media industry sacrifice quite a lot to bring stories and information to the viewers, to their audience. And a lot of this do happen across Africa, where the law or the rule of law really has not become strengthened, has not been very effective compared to the Western organization or Western country. So I think what the African Union has been trying to do something in that direction, and more so on other African countries, is to strengthen the law, not just in relation to the journalists, but again, in the sense that they sacrifice quite a lot to bring stories to their citizens. And I think it's one thing that we have to look at in the whole of this, is that the law of the land needs to be strengthened. The lives of journalists who sacrifice beyond ordinary citizens need to be taken very, very serious.
Nigeria ranked 11th among 12 countries and have appeared on the index, trailing behind Somalia and South Sudan in Africa. Most of the victims were local journalists covering war, politics, and human rights. At least 5 of these journalists were killed with complete impunity in the past decade. Some of the highest rates of impunity in the murders of journalists were attributed to killings by militant groups. In at least 40% of the cases, the victims reported receiving threats before they were killed.
According to the United Nations statistics, more than 800 journalists have been killed in the line of duty over the past decade. Africa continues to lead the global index in terms of impunity and crimes against journalists, with Somalia, South Sudan and Nigeria topping the list. Joining me in the studio on Africa Today, I have Kwasim Akinreti, Assistant Director News, Voice of Nigeria, and the Chairperson, Nigerian Union of Journalists, Lagos Council. And on phone, I have Cyril Abako, researcher and journalist here in Nigeria. Good to have you, gentlemen, on the program.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Well, let me begin with you now, Akinreti. What are your thoughts, first of all, on the level of impunity and crimes against journalists across Africa?
Well, from the statistics read out, it's quite horrendous and extremely frightening, because since Nigeria is climbing up the ladder in cases of impunity, crimes against journalists. And it became so worrisome when actually people don't understand the role, or do not appreciate the role of journalists. Because journalists protect the society, makes society look good. They are interested in good governance and overall in the development of society. But society in turn does not seem to appreciate that role and turns around to either killed, maimed, or tortured journalists just for no cause. So that is the anticlimax of the nature of our profession in Africa, more importantly in Nigeria.
But why should that be so, knowing that the journalist is indeed the fourth estate of the realm?
Because a lot of people do not understand, do not appreciate, let me use that word very well, because there are some people who you're supposed to know that you understand the role perfectly well, most especially the agents of the states, who do know that virtually we are working for the same purpose, for the good of the people, and they turn around to be those that are perpetrating some of these impunities. The cases of those that are involved in that, the police, the army, the customs. These are security agencies that obviously you understand, and the state security services, you understand the role of journalists very, very well. And then they turn around to be part of those who really are committing this impunity. It's impunity because they think you can just get away with it. But the clear case of Nigeria, of the two cases now in court by the NUJ, Lagos chapter, clearly underscore the essence of that impunity, that never again will the agents of the states or their collaborators go away with that impunity. For the past 2 years, the NUJ has been in court to fight for the rights of Yomi Onomofe, who was attacked in Seme Boda by the agent of the states and their collaborator. And of course, Nwalaka of the Leadership newspaper, the photograph that was assaulted right here in Lagos, in the precincts of Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. So these two cases are quite glaring, and the union is pursuing it to a logical conclusion. Fine, yes, it's taking quite a toll in terms of the resources being spent.
Yeah.
But it's really worth it for us to say you cannot continue with this impunity. That is the statement that NUJ Lagos Council is making. And I think it's really worth it.
All right, let me quickly bring in Cyril Abaku for his thoughts on this perspective. Cyril, how worrying now is the rising case of impunity and crimes against journalists in Africa?
Well, I think it is unfortunate, Esther. Quite frankly speaking, when we say that the journalists or the media, the mass media, is the fourth estate of the realm, it simply puts the media, on the same pedestal with the three other arms of government. And you know that, quite frankly speaking, without journalists, without the mass media, it will be very difficult to run a democracy. Because first of all, democracy enunciates or attempts to rise on popularity of ideas or the free flow of ideas among citizens, and then again, that is horizontally speaking, and then between the governed and the governed, that is taking the vertical turn of things. So both ways, without the media is a platform or is a playing ground where the governed exchange ideas and the governed and the government also exchange ideas. Without a free media, there can be no free flow of ideas. There can be no governance cannot, take a properly duplicated vehicle to whatever it is that government wants to achieve. But quite frankly speaking, I think the reason why the media in Africa is still taking the way it is taking, you can see what happened in Kenya some days ago, where journalists were brutally attacked. So, the reason why things are the way they are, there are two things I want to give. The first is that political structures in Africa are still very weak. Governments are still very intolerant. When you look at the fact that majority governments in Africa are still long-term leaders, are still autocratic governments, are still governments that are run by state-type leadership. Those governments are not leaders that want opposition opinions, for instance, to be aired freely.
Right.
So they're going to attack it. So they're going to do everything they can to undermine the existence of media that guarantee free flows of ideas, both from the right and from the left. That is one. Then number two, I think something more worrisome is happening. Esther, if you look at the mass media today, many times they are the hand of Jacob. They are the voice of Jacob and the hand of Esau. You can almost, Mr. Akireti, if I'm correct, works for VON. VON is a state-owned institution. So you can say that they tend to help to get government's opinion out there. But you find that the majority of what we call privately owned media are media that are owned more or less by politicians. So at the end of the day, when government wants to get, when the state wants to get at a particular individual, and they can't get at him, the immediate feeling is that whatever is written in the media or the media that he owns, is he or she is using them to attack the state. So they feel that getting at that medium is also getting at that person. So the fact that most media in Nigeria are owned by politicians and people who, at one time or the other, are part of the political process, tends to pit them easily against other political forces who might be in government at that time.
So why should it be at that level? Shouldn't the media be independent, as it were, so that it can serve as a watchdog as it truly represents?
Well, you can look at the question of media independence or editorial independence, as you might want to call it, is really difficult. The reason is simple. In Nigeria, for instance, let's use Nigeria as an example. To apply for license as a normal journalist, to apply for license and to own your own medium, you are likely going to spend what you will earn a salary over 20 or 40 years. The difference is that if you want to own a print medium, you might as well just go print what you want to print, take it to press, and then after your first or two editions, you go to the National Library and then you register it there, and that's it. If you can get the commercials you need to sustain yourself, fine. But even we have seen that even at that level, when journalists run their own print papers, after about maybe 6 months or 1 year, they are unable to sustain it. They run the politicians for help, for financial bailout. The mass media, that is the electronic media, is even worse. To get a radio license or to get a TV license, they're going to ask for the head of John the Baptist. Where such draconian laws exist that deliberately preclude core professional journalists from owning their own media, they run the politicians for succor. So one money bag, one big politician bankrolls the project, and then the journalists are just there as mere stooges. In that case, it is clear to tell that he who pays for it is going to call the tune. And when that happens, the journalist is pitted against other political forces who, by hook or by crook, we want to come after him. That is the sad story. That is the sad thing, and that's why again, Esther, if you look at the Nigerian news medium, online, print, whatever, it is almost easy to tell what they're going to say. It is almost you can look at the headlines, you can look at their just of news, you can look at their ideological direction. It is so easy to tell what they stand for. That sort of journalism, I'm sorry to say, does not particularly portray what core independent media should be doing.
All right, so Cyril, let me hold your thoughts now. We need to go on a very quick break. You're watching Africa Today, and we're looking at the level of impunity and crimes against journalists across Africa. Stay with us here for more discussions in a bit. Morbid conditions seem to always characterize the journalists' workplace in Africa, with some leaders across the continent coming under scrutiny for obstructing freedom. Rwanda recently introduced a new media law that will see journalists insulting President Kagame jailed for 7 years, while Tanzania is no different, with the government banning newspapers and temporarily taking off air 2 radio stations. Well, now, Dr. Kasim, you just heard Cyril Abaku's own point of view with regards to the situation on ground, but from the look of things, you do not seem to share his sentiments.
Well, I disagree with the sentiment with respect to those who are killed or maimed or tortured because they're actually working with a private media organization. That's not really true. We've had cases of people that are working for governments and they were killed. A case is Zakaria, the guy that worked in the NTA. Boko Haram people killed that guy in Maiduguri. I mean, just for no cause, because probably they just decided that probably there's a story that Iran, that he did, that they are not interested in it. Of course, we have also seen another level of impunity where journalists are abducted, beaten, and tortured because they were writing against a state government. That's a clear case of Charles Otu writing against Ebonyi state governments, and the guy was tortured. So the level of impunity, we can classify it into three. Those, obviously, that are murdered with impunity and nothing has happened. Dele Giwa, Bayo, Ayodele, and so on.
A whole lot of them.
Yeah. And of course, those that were targeted for murder, but unfortunately escaped. The two people that belong to that, easily, Yomi Olomofe, who will have been killed by agent of the state. Nwalaka could have also been killed by, a Nigerian who should have not much more better. Why? What was he trying to do? Taking a picture of a dead person in a mortuary. That's the offense he has committed. He was almost killed at that process, just escaped by whiskers. So, and if you look at the trajectory from 1992, is these three patterns that you are following. So, you have 7 journalists murdered with impunity, you have 8 targeted for murder, and you have 10 killed outrightly, without no question. The guy that works for Channels Television that was killed in Kano was doing a good job, and he was shot back by the Boko Haram group. So it's only because they do not appreciate your role.
So what roles are journalists themselves taking now in terms of unionism now to mitigate this situation that seems to take its toll on journalists who are performing their duties creditably across Africa?
So what we do, for example, in Nigeria, the NUJ has had an understanding, an agreement with the security agencies on how they can collaborate, on how they can keep to discuss and it's issues that has to do with protection of journalists. And former senior defense officers or security agencies were part and members of that committee, with also some veteran journalists, to ensure that there's constant dialogue and better understanding between the security agencies and journalists. Number 2 is the fact that the unions are instituted life insurance scheme for its members annually. And it also presupposes that media organizations should also ensure journalists are working for them or working with them. Another thing that we have done is talking about the safety of journalists. You as a journalist should know when not to cross the red line. Take your safety very, very important. Guide it jealously. 1, be careful the kind of people you talk with, the kind of friends you keep, and do not unnecessarily expose yourself to danger. I choose the word necessarily expose yourself to danger. Well, of course, if a journalist is caught up in crossfire,
exactly,
that is it.
Yeah.
But of course, if deliberately you can understand that it's danger somewhere, there's no point for you.
Well, for reporters who are, in between, crossfire, war zones, and all that,
No, absolutely. It happened by the accident, and that's essence of a life insurance scheme.
Okay.
But in today's world, in today's journey, in the 21st century, there are various avenues, and technology has made our life so easy that ordinarily there's no point endangering your life if it is not really compulsory, because there's so many things you can do to get that story out on time, real time. So don't behave as if this is going to be your last byline or this is going to be your last report. Take it easy. Be careful of what you do, and then remember that if you are doing what is public good, of course, the public should also protect you. That's why I talk about level of literacy. In advanced countries, journalists are so much loved. People invite you over a dinner, over a breakfast, over lunch to talk about issues. But here, in this part of the world, you are not just wanted. Even in your own country, where there are no wars, seemingly there are no wars, you still find that your life is still being endangered by those who do not know, or those who do know, but obviously they have been overzealous in carrying out their responsibilities.
So how can we change this narrative? Change the perception?
What can change the narrative is that for you to have better understanding. And that's exactly what I told you that the NUJ at national level is doing now to ensure that there is constant dialogue. And good enough, the police has also have what we call human rights desk. to also improve their human relations.
Yeah.
So that, and of course, that goes around all other security agencies. What we are also going to do in Lagos, as the chairman of Lagos, we still have to extend Olive Branch to some journalists, those who studied mass communication or media-related courses, who are in the security agencies for their own understanding, and therefore to bring them part of the union. So we can create what we call a security chapel. Where those can also safeguard our members. So when we have a program, we invite them. That's also part of us because they are part of the union. So once we have this understanding, and they also have a chapel, they also know how to also help us to give some of these safety tips.
All right. All right, Cyril, you just heard Kasim's own position on this matter, but let me quickly ask you this. Do you believe that in the generalization that laws in Africa aren't potent?
Laws.
Why is that?
Yeah, well, if I heard you well, you're asking if laws are important.
Are potent?
Are potent? Well, no, they are not always potent, because many times people who should be enforcing laws, they see their position.
Hello, Cyril, can you hear me? All right, since we've lost Cyril's connection there, let me throw that question to you.
All right.
Do you think so?
Well, of course, law is important. Everybody needs to respect the law.
But is it potent in Africa?
No, of course it is. You see, the pillars on which democracy stands, first is the strict adherence to the rule of law, freedom of the press, and right to reply. Look, let everybody respect the law. That's more reason why Lagos journalists are to go to court. We've taken the customs to court over harassment, beating off of Yomi Olomofe. Second Yaroni, we are still in court with them to know that it's an impunity and we're not going to allow it. Secondly, for Nwalaka is an individual that has also attacked him on the course of duty. And despite all the overtures for us to drop the case and settle, out of them, said no. We want to put our feet down to say no and never will the journalists will be assaulted on the course of duty. So that impunity must stop. Right. You also know that there's also a right of reply. If you think journalists have gone beyond bound in terms of probably invasion of your privacy or something that has happened along the line, you have the right of reply. You also have the right to report that journalist to ethics committee of the NUJ, and that person will be disciplined. Or you can take your case to media regulatory agencies, Nigerian Press Council, for example, the National Broadcasting Commission. You can be assured that whoever that journalist or that media organization who are found culpable will be dealt with accordance with the law. But there's no point for you taking laws into your hands. That's exactly what we are saying.
Yeah.
You feel aggrieved or anything, fine. Why don't you go through the process of the law? That's it. So have a right of reply, but do know that there is what we call press freedom. It is sacrosanct. So we also enjoin our colleagues, do not publish to be damned. Do your job responsibly. And then the society should also appreciate the role of a journalist.
All right.
That he is also trying to protect him or her for that better society. That's why in journalism school, there is a course called Media and Society. It's a compulsory course.
Indeed.
And that's why we are saying anyone that wants to practice journalism should go to journalism school. Because you have first degree in physics, sociology, political science, does not mean automatically that you are a journalist. You must go to school.
Those to go hand in hand.
When you go there, you are going to be trained and you will know. That's what we call media law. Under media law, there's libel, there's sedition, there's also the do's and don'ts. You have fair hearing, public interest, you have absolute privilege. These are issues that you'll be taught in school so that you understand and appreciate it well. The danger, however, today is more with the online journalists, the so-called bloggers who just believe that, yes, you can just put anything there. What they do is that they forget that there are two principles that underline, the potency of a journalist: verification and justification. If you cannot verify a source of a story, there's no point for you publishing it. if you cannot justify it that this is for common good and for public good, there's no point. But if it's for personal interest, then you have just missed the way.
Indeed.
So if you don't know this, and these are the
Yeah.
things that most online journalists, bloggers are doing.
So we should definitely take this, lessons and understand our society so that we do not have,
Absolutely.
something difficult for us at the end of the day. But let me thank you very much, Dr. Kasim Akinreti, Assistant Director, Voice of Nigeria and Chairperson, Nigerian Union of Journalists, Lagos Council. We appreciate your analysis on the program
Thank
tonight.
you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
Amidst demands for independent press comes the need for responsible journalism, where the media profession is said to be walking through a minefield at night just to ensure that the mission to tell the truth remains alive against all odds. In truly achieving sustainable development, leaders in Africa and around the world must come to terms with the role that journalists play in shaping a just society and creating an inclusive future for all. Well, that is our package for today. But don't forget to join the conversation as usual on Twitter at TVC News NG and follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, I am Esther Makwariola, and always remember, change starts with you.